This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. There's a lot to be thankful for this season. For one, I'm thankful you can get NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV right now for only $209. It's exactly what you need as we head right into the playoffs. You can invite your friends over. Maybe you have a multi-view. You could have 4 different games, one for you, one each for the 3 other friends you invite. You can change the games around as soon as the outcome becomes pretty certain. Dump that game, but in another one. I've become the multi-view master. The moment the one of the games is losing steam, I'm ready to move right in and move it for another one. Build your own multi-view. One of my favorite words. Thank yourself this holiday season. Get NFL Sunday Ticket for the rest of the NFL regular season for just $209. Sign up now at youtube.com/BS. Terms and embargoes apply. Device and content restrictions apply. No cancellations.
Welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it. What's going on, Ram fans? And what a wonderful day it is. Your eyes do not deceive you. The Los Angeles Rams sitting atop the NFC West as I speak with that 8-6 record after the Packers took care of the Seahawks Sunday night. So the Rams at 8-6, first place in the NFC West, tied with Seattle. Rams win the tiebreaker. So the Rams at 8-6, Seattle at 8-6, and Arizona at 7-7. 49ers at the bottom there, 6-8. Rams in really good position now. They have a long road trip playing the Jets next Sunday, and then their final 2 games at home against Arizona and Seattle. And I got to put this out there. And people start telling you this Jets game is a must-win game. It is not. And actually, it's not really that important at all. If the Rams lose to the Jets, and I certainly hope they beat them for a couple of reasons, but if they do lose to the Jets, they come home and beat Arizona and Seattle, they will be the NFC West champions. Let me explain. If Seattle were to beat Minnesota and Chicago and lose to the Rams, that would give them a 10-7 record. If the Rams lose to the Jets and beat Arizona and Seattle, they will be 10-7, but will win the tiebreaker over Seattle. And Arizona, if they lose that game to the Rams, the best they can do is 9-8. Now, that game against the Jets is important for a couple of reasons. It could affect the playoff seeding, where the Rams stack up against the Bucs, and that, of course, would dictate who they play, who they host at SoFi in the first round. Maybe you want to be the 4 seed. We'll see how that turns out. But the other possibility is the wild card spot. Now, if the Commanders had lost to the Saints, that would really be in play. Two teams from the NFC West could potentially advance. Still unlikely. But now Washington, sitting at 9-5, has the Eagles, Falcons, and Cowboys left, so they're probably going to get to 10 wins. But if they somehow slip, that could open up the door for the Rams if they beat the Jets, but then lose one of those other games. But Commanders would really have to trip up for that to happen. So the bottom line is Rams beat the Cardinals and beat the Seahawks. They'll be in the playoffs. Beating the Jets will just be icing on the cake. Potentially improve their seeding from the number 4 to the number 3 seed, for example. Bottom line, this Rams team well positioned for a playoff run. After a 1-4 start, pretty amazing. This team is on a roll, could be an extremely dangerous team in the playoffs. Now, I will do a Path to the Playoff segment here this week. Maybe we should start calling it Path to the Super Bowl, because that's really where we're at. Rams definitely have a shot. Got to keep on playing some good football. And that path to the Super Bowl could potentially include the Lions playing at SoFi in a wild card game. Yes, it is possible. I'll save that for another day, though. This episode, while we celebrate the Rams' first place standing, we'll do a mini loop around the league, checking on every division in the NFL following this Sunday of action with 2 more Monday night games left. I'm also going to review my draft picks, my first mock draft the other night. Kind of just dove into it without doing a lot of research. Well, I went back and reviewed my picks, kind of checked to see how I did. And this is part of the process of learning about these players, doing it a little bit backwards, run a mock draft, research the guys I picked. But that's how I'm going to go about learning about these guys in the early going before we get into our real NFL draft season. So let's do a mini loop around the league. And what we're going to do here is focus on the AFC division by division and how things look after Sunday's games. The only AFC team playing Monday night is the Raiders, and they have been rendered irrelevant once again. And we've already talked about the NFC West, so we'll come back and talk about the other 3 divisions in the NFC in a moment. So the pecking order right now, the Chiefs remain the top dog, 13-1 after taking care of the Browns. Patrick Mahomes suffered an ankle injury, but it appears to be fairly minor. The Bills improved to 11-3, smacking the Detroit Lions in Detroit. And the Steelers slipped to 10-4, 1 game ahead of the Ravens. So the Steelers lost to the Eagles. The Ravens cruised past the Giants, and the Texans reestablished themselves somewhat. The top dog in the AFC South, 9-5, with the Colts losing. So the Ravens 9-5, 1 game behind the Steelers, who are 10-4. Now keep in mind, next week the Steelers play at Baltimore against the Ravens. So that 1 game lead could evaporate, and the following week the Steelers get the Chiefs while the Ravens are playing the Texans. So that division is far from being decided. The Broncos took care of business, so they are at 9-5. And the Chargers slipped to 8-6, and that gives a little bit of life to the Bengals and Dolphins. The Bengals won, the Dolphins lost, so they're both 6-8. Same with the Colts, also 6-8. Time running out on them, but the Chargers, man, missed an opportunity to really nail things down as a wild card team. I wouldn't say that they're in trouble, but they missed an opportunity, losing badly to the Bucs at SoFi. So again, Chiefs at the top, followed by the Bills, Steelers, Texans, and then the 3 wild card teams, the Ravens, Broncos, and Chargers. And I'm not sorting through the tiebreakers here, just giving you the 7 teams. And the 3 teams on life support, the Bengals, Dolphins, and Colts. Not betting on it, like I said a couple weeks ago. I think we know who our 7 AFC playoff teams are. So the NFC, a little bit more complicated than the AFC. We already talked about the NFC West. That by itself is pretty messy. The NFC North, really interesting as well. The Lions at 12-2, the Vikings 11-2 with this Monday night game ahead of them, and the Packers at 10-4. Now, Green Bay has the Saints, Vikings, and Bears on their schedule. That game against the Vikings is in Minnesota. so they're likely to get to 12 wins at least. The Lions at 12-2 travel to Chicago and then San Francisco and then get the Vikings at home. The Vikings at 11-2 will likely win Monday night, we would think anyways, right, to get to 12-2, hosting the Bears. And then they travel to Seattle, and then they get the Packers and Lions, the Lions in Detroit. That's a pretty tough schedule. But it is possible Detroit could lose a couple of games, right? End up with a 13-4 record, giving the Vikings a chance to leapfrog them, leaving the Lions in a wild card slot. Just saying. But all three of these teams are going to make the playoffs, the Lions, Vikings, and Packers. It may come down to that last game, the Vikings and the Lions, and the NFL may have a decision to make. Who do they want playing in that late Sunday night game? The Rams and Seahawks, if everything's on the line there, or the Lions and Vikings. If both of those divisions are at stake, I think they'd probably lean Vikings-Lions. NFC East, pretty straightforward. Eagles have that wrapped up. Well, technically, they need to beat the Commanders, pick up one more win anyways to seal the deal, and the Commanders, in all likelihood, the last team in the NFC playoffs, unless they really stumble and open the door for another team. And then the NFC South, Tampa Bay on top with an 8-6 record. The Falcons need to beat the Raiders Monday night to get to 7-7, so they would still be trailing the Bucs by one game. If they lose, they're probably done. Atlanta's schedule fairly easy going down the stretch here. The Giants, Commanders, and Panthers. They should win two of those for sure, right? Meanwhile, Tampa Bay has the Cowboys, Panthers, and Saints, a little bit tougher. So if the Falcons can beat the Raiders, it's not over for them, not at all. Because remember, they beat the Bucs twice. So they just need to forge a tie with the Buccaneers, and they will be in the playoffs. Next up, I'll review all those picks I made the other night in my first 2025 NFL mock draft.
Deck your home with Blinds.com. DIY or let us install. Free design consultation. Free. Plus free samples and free shipping.
Head to Blinds.com now for up to 45% off select styles plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write a million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to those who plan ahead. Family vacay? Reserve your ride as soon as you book your flights. To all the planners, now you can reserve your Uber ride up to 90 days in advance. See Uber app for details.
Now, I don't know if you all caught it, but Saturday night, I dropped my first 2025 NFL mock draft for our Los Angeles Rams, and going in, I kind of came clean. I was going in without a lot of information, just kind of winging it, see which players might fall to the Rams, and then do the research afterwards. I know, backwards approach, but this is just the start of the process. All of us Ram fans trying to learn about these players. And I thought I'd go back and look at these guys I drafted, and we'll get to know them all a little bit better. And there's maybe one guy that I drafted that I would not draft the second time around. Actually, probably two. But the first pick I'm still happy with. I took at number 18, Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan State. Now there's going to be a big discussion about who the top tight end is. Going in, the public is probably much more in love with the Penn State tight end Tyler Warren. They both have a lot to offer. And you know what? I'd probably go Tyler Warren above Loveland overall. But a lot of the draft pundits have Loveland higher. So that's a discussion we can continue to have over the next several months. And I will be presenting a comparison between the two of them. I'll see if I can get Paul Wally on board for that. Maybe we can separate these two from each other once and for all. At number 82 overall, I took Darian Porter, the cornerback out of Iowa State, 6'4", 200 pounds, already 24 years old. He's been at Iowa State for 6 years, a converted wide receiver. He's got a track background, so he's a burner, 4.38 speed, and he is a guy that will add extreme special teams value as a rookie. A little bit inexperienced playing cornerback, though, compared to some of these other guys. Gets washed out a little bit in the run game, and I want to compare him to another cornerback, Ohio State's Denzel Burke, 6'1", 193, and we'll save that for another video, perhaps. We'll compare Loveland with Warren as far as the tight ends go, and then maybe Porter and Burke. The problem with the cornerbacks, the rankings are all over the place. Some have Burke much higher than Porter, and then you'll see Porter in the top 50 players overall ahead of Burke. So we got to sort that out before the draft. And then 101 overall, I took Rob Havenstein's eventual replacement, Ajani Cornelius, offensive tackle out of Oregon, and he did play the right side. He's 6'5", 315, elite pass rushing skills. In 2023, allowed 0 sacks and just 11 pressures in 512 pass blocking snaps. So I'm happy with that pick. Now, the first pick I would have a do-over on, 119 overall, I took Tez Johnson, the wide receiver out of Oregon, and should have done a little more research on him. And again, guilty as charged. Didn't really know what I was doing this first time around. Johnson is 5'10", 165, strictly a slot receiver, and that's not going to work in this offense. It just isn't. At 191 overall, I solved a problem for the Rams, I think. Nazir Stackhouse, the defensive lineman out of Georgia, 6'3", 320 pounds, just a pure early down run-stuffing nose tackle, but has the ability to potentially develop into something more than that. So if we move on from Bobby Brown, even if we keep Bobby Brown, we got Tyler Davis there on the inside sometimes too. Stackhouse would be a welcome addition to this run defense. And remember, if we stack up on guys like Stackhouse, it reduces the need for impact linebackers. You know, you got these big dudes up front that just eat up blocks, and guys like Christian Roseboom and Omar Spates perfectly capable of making the tackles. At 194 overall, I've talked about this, the Rams take a running back every year, and we know what kind of running backs they like. And another one that they will probably like, Woody Marks out of USC, 5'10", 208, exactly the size that they look for, it seems. What am I talking about? Kyron Williams, 5'9", 202, Blake Corum, 5'8", 210, Woody Marks, 5'10", 208. Played 4 years with the Mississippi State Bulldogs, set the program record for career receptions, and had 1,883 rushing yards and 22 touchdowns on the ground. Then came over to USC. Compact frame that allows him to, tell me who this sounds like, navigate through tight spaces effectively. Blake Corum, Kyron Williams-ish, right? And he has good speed, 4.48 in the 40, which would make him the Rams' fastest running back. Kyron Williams, 4.65, Blake Corum, 4.53. And my last pick was safety Keon Saab out of Alabama, and I'd probably ask for a do-over on that pick as well. Probably should have went edge rusher, interior offensive lineman there, or maybe even a linebacker. Safety is really not a need, and I stated that up front, but you know what? In the 7th round, there's no bad picks. There really aren't. Safety seems to be one position that we're pretty well set at, though, with Cameron Curl, Quentin Lake can play there, Jalen McCullough, Cam Kinchins, and John Johnson, who knows. So that is a self-review of my first 2025 NFL mock draft for our Los Angeles Rams. I'll have to get this over to Paul Wally to see what he thinks, and we'll get back another day, and we'll do that Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren tight end comparison. Got to get that sorted out because that is definitely a direction Sean McVay might go. Okay, let's wrap things up here. Episodes 410 and 510, I talked about number 10 Mark Bulger and number 10 Pharoh Cooper, respectively. This episode, no, I'm not going to talk about Cooper Kupp just yet. I'll save that maybe even for a couple years down the road, hopefully. This episode, I'm going to talk about a wide receiver, Mike Sims Walker. Now, Sims Walker was selected by the Jags in the third round of the 2007 draft. Had to sit out that first season. In 2008, he played 9 games. And in 2009, he was the Jags' leader in receptions and receiving yards. And then, after the 2010 season, became a free agent. And the St. Louis Rams jumped all over that, signing him to a free agent contract in July, and then releasing him in October. Finished his very short Rams career with 11 catches for 139 yards, 0 TDs. And that, by the way, was the 2-14 St. Louis Rams. And why do I bring up Mike Sims Walker? Because I remember being elated, so excited that the Rams had signed a productive receiver. That's how bad it was during that era. Mike Sims Walker, big free agent signing for the Rams that really amounted to much ado about nothing. But decent receiver, had a nice little career. Number 10 for our St. Louis Rams, Mike Sims Walker. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.